Liberia is one of the most unusual countries in Africa. It's located on the Atlantic coast of West Africa, surrounded by Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Côte d'Ivoire. But there is something about Liberia that immediately separates it from almost every other country on the continent. Its capital is called Monrovia. Its official language is English. Its flag looks remarkably similar to the American flag. And the country's history is directly connected to the United States. So how did an American connection end up shaping a country thousands of miles away in West Africa? To understand modern Liberia, we have to go back more than 200 years. In the early 1800s, organizations in the United States began supporting the migration of free black Americans to West Africa. The American Colonization Society was established in 1816 with the goal of helping free African Americans relocate to Africa. In 1821, land around Cape Misirata was acquired for a settlement on the West African coast. The first settlers arrived the following year. The settlement eventually became Monrovia, named after U.S. President James Monroe. In 1824, the name Liberia was officially adopted, and in 1847, Liberia declared independence. That made Liberia one of the earliest independent republics in Africa. But this history is much more complicated than simply saying that America created Liberia. The territory was already home to indigenous African communities, and the arrival of settlers created political and social tensions that would shape the country for generations. The settlers who came from the Americas also brought institutions, customs, architecture, religion, and political ideas influenced by the United States. That influence is still visible today. Liberia's legal and political traditions developed partly from American models. Its capital carries an American president's name, and its national flag was designed with a strong resemblance to the flag of the United States. This is why Liberia is sometimes described as America's historical footprint in West Africa. But history is only one part of the story. Because today, Liberia is home to more than 5 million people, and most Liberians are living ordinary lives far removed from the country's unusual founding story. And to understand that life, the best place to start is Monrovia. Monrovia is the country's political and economic center. Government offices, businesses, markets, schools, restaurants, banks, and major transport routes are concentrated around the capital and its surrounding communities. For many residents, daily life revolves around work and small businesses. The informal economy is extremely important. Street vendors, market traders, mechanics, drivers, construction workers, food sellers, and small shop owners make up a large part of everyday economic activity. That means a significant amount of business happens outside traditional office buildings. Markets are particularly important. People buy rice, vegetables, fish, meat, clothing, household products, and imported goods through networks of local traders. Rice is especially important in the Liberian diet and economy. The country produces some rice domestically, but it also relies heavily on imports to meet demand. That creates an interesting part of everyday life because food prices can be affected not only by local production, but also by international prices, shipping costs, and the value of the Liberian dollar and US dollar. And that brings us to another unusual feature of Liberia. The United States dollar is widely used alongside Liberia's own currency. For many transactions, especially larger purchases, people may deal with prices in US dollars. The Liberian dollar remains the country's official currency, but the presence of the US dollar reflects the country's long economic relationship with America. For someone visiting Liberia for the first time, this can make the country feel surprisingly familiar in some ways, but daily life is still shaped by West African realities. Most people don't live in the kind of environment shown in international images of Monrovia. Instead, they live in neighborhoods where transportation, electricity, water access, employment, and housing costs are practical concerns that affect everyday decisions. Getting around Monrovia can mean shared taxis, motorcycles in permitted areas, buses, private cars, or walking depending on the destination. Traffic and road conditions can make relatively short journeys take much longer than they appear on a map. Outside the capital, life changes again. Liberia is still heavily dependent on agriculture, and rural communities rely on farming, fishing, and other natural resource-based activities. The country has major deposits of iron ore and other natural resources, while rubber has historically been one of its important exports. But having natural resources doesn't automatically make a country wealthy. Before we continue, like the video and subscribe to our channel if you enjoy discovering countries most travel channels rarely cover. Now let's look at everyday life in Liberia. A large part of Liberia's economy depends on small businesses, agriculture, trading, transportation, and informal work. In Monrovia, many people earn money by running small shops, selling food, clothing, electronics, or household products. Mechanics, drivers, construction workers, market traders, fishermen, and phone repair businesses are also important parts of the economy. For many families, income doesn't come from one fixed salary. People often depend on several sources of income to support their households. Outside Monrovia, agriculture becomes even more important. Liberia produces rice, cassava, rubber, cocoa, coffee, and oil palm. Rice is especially important because it is one of the country's main staple foods, but Liberia still imports large amounts of rice despite having plenty of agricultural land. Increasing local production could create jobs while reducing dependence on imports. Liberia also has valuable natural resources. Iron ore and gold are major resources, while rubber has historically been one of the country's important exports. But natural resources don't automatically make a country wealthy. The real challenge is turning those resources into jobs, infrastructure, and long-term economic growth. Another important part of daily life is mobile money. Because traditional banking isn't easily accessible everywhere, mobile phones have become an important financial tool. People can send money, receive payments, and run small businesses without always needing a traditional bank account. Electricity remains a major challenge. Access has improved, especially in Monrovia, but many households and businesses still rely on generators or other alternatives. This affects everything from refrigeration and internet access to running machinery and small businesses. Transportation is another part of everyday life. Shared taxis are widely used in Monrovia, while motorcycles are common in many other areas. Road conditions and traffic can make journeys surprisingly long, especially during Liberia's rainy season. Liberia receives some of the highest rainfall in West Africa. The rain supports agriculture, but it can also cause flooding and damage roads. But Liberia has another major advantage: its natural environment. The country contains some of the remaining Upper Guinean rainforest in West Africa. Sapo National Park is Liberia's largest protected area and provides habitat for forest elephants, pygmy hippos, chimpanzees, and many other species. Liberia also has hundreds of kilometers of Atlantic coastline, but international tourism remains relatively small compared with countries such as Ghana or Senegal. That means Liberia has not developed the same mass tourism infrastructure as many other destinations in the region. The country's culture is equally interesting. English is the official language, but Liberia is home to many ethnic groups with their own languages and traditions. Despite its unusual American history, modern Liberian culture is strongly West African. You can see American influence in the country's history, political system, flag, and the name Monrovia. But daily life, traditions, food, music, and community life are deeply connected to West Africa. Liberia also has a very young population, That could become a major advantage if the country creates enough jobs and opportunities, but it also puts pressure on education, healthcare, housing, and infrastructure. Liberia's healthcare system was heavily affected by years of conflict, and the Ebola outbreak between 2014 and 2016 exposed major weaknesses. Since then, the country has invested in strengthening healthcare and emergency response systems. So what is life in Liberia really like? It's a country with serious challenges, but also enormous potential. A young population, valuable resources, rainforest, coastline, growing businesses, and a unique history all give Liberia opportunities for the future. And that's what makes Liberia one of West Africa's most overlooked stories. Would you visit Liberia? Let me know in the comments and subscribe to our channel for more countries and stories from around the world.